Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're plunging into something really universal, I
Yeah.
think. It's the impact, the profound impact of our
Yeah.
inner beliefs.
Yeah.
Specifically, we're tackling those feelings,
Mhm.
self-doubt, inadequacy,
Yeah.
stuff that can kind of run our lives sometimes.
Definitely. That little voice.
Exactly. That whisper saying, maybe you're not quite enough.
Yeah.
We've all been there, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for this deep dive, we're looking at excerpts from The Power of Self-Belief and Faith. It tackles this exact challenge.
Okay.
So our mission really is to pull out the practical insights and honestly some surprising wisdom from it. How to build real confidence, unlock potential.
Mhm.
We want to figure out what it actually takes to get from that self-doubt place to, well, self-realization.
Okay, let's get into it then. So right off the bat, the source says that having humble but reasonable confidence in your own powers, that's essential, like non-negotiable for success and happiness.
Yeah. Right. It sets up a stark contrast, doesn't it, between that and the detrimental effect of a sense of inferiority and inadequacy.
Yeah, it's like one path leads forward, the other just stops you, blocks your hopes.
And it actually gives it a name.
Yeah.
It calls this feeling a malady, popularly called the inferiority complex.
A malady. Wow.
Yeah. And it stresses how much this holds people back, stops them from, getting what they hope for.
Hmm.
But it's not all doom and gloom. It makes a strong claim that this condition can be fixed. You can overcome it with the right steps.
Okay, good.
And that leads to something it calls creative faith in yourself, which sounds interesting. It's not just belief. It's like an active, generative thing, like you're creating the reality.
Creative faith, I like that.
Mhm.
So how do we start fighting this malady? What are the steps?
Well, the source suggests kind of two levels. There's an immediate fix, a formula for those really urgent, high-pressure moments.
Like first aid for self-doubt.
Exactly. And then there's a deeper approach, an analysis for a more permanent, long-term solution.
Okay, immediate help and deep healing. Makes sense.
Precisely. And there's a great story for the immediate part about this businessman, 40 years old.
Uh-huh.
And he's facing, like, the most important business deal of his life. Huge moment.
Right. High stakes.
But inside, he's just crippled by terrible disbelief in himself, feels totally sunk, no confidence when he needs it most.
Oh, man, I can almost feel that. So what did he do?
He actually went to the author, basically desperate, just pleading for some kind of help, anything.
Wow. And what was the immediate formula? What did the author give him?
It was actually really simple. Just repeat an affirmation. I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. Philippians 4.30c.
Kind of repeat that.
Yeah. Repeat it with faith. And the source says it did wonders for him. Right then and there, it gave him sufficient strength and ability.
That sounds almost too simple, just words. How does the source explain why that works so fast?
Well, yeah, it's rooted in faith, obviously. But it also touches on something psychological, right? That power of self-talk, cognitive reframing. In that critical moment, changing your internal script. It's not just the words, maybe, but the act of speaking something positive, something affirmative, when you feel crushed by doubt.
Like redirecting your brain.
Sort of, yeah.
Right.
Bypassing the panic button and accessing what you actually can do. And importantly, that quick fix wasn't the whole story.
Right. You said there was a deeper part.
Exactly. The businessman, later on, he pursued a study made of the reasons for his inferiority attitudes. He dug deeper.
Okay, so analysis.
Yes. And those root causes were apparently cleared away by scientific counseling and by the application of religious faith.
Scientific counseling.
Like therapy.
It sounds like, yeah, a structured way to find and change those negative thought patterns, combined with his faith practice.
A holistic approach.
Totally. And the result, it transformed him. Things started to flow toward rather than away from him. He found authentic confidence, not just a temporary boost.
That's the goal, isn't it? Authentic confidence. But okay, that deep analysis. Where do these feelings even come from? Does the source get into the origins? Oh, absolutely. It points out that not a few stem from childhood. Often it's not just one thing, but layers of experiences.
Makes sense. Childhood stuff sticks around.
For sure. There's this example of a young administrative assistant, really capable, but he talked too much.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, he kept divulging matters of a private and important nature, couldn't keep things confidential.
Not good for an admin assistant.
Definitely not. But when they looked into it, the root cause was this feeling of inferiority. He didn't have the college background, the fraternity ties, like his colleagues who were, well-to-do.
Ah, so he felt like he didn't measure up.
Exactly. And his subconscious came up with this compensatory mechanism. He'd parade his knowledge of inside info.
To feel important.
Yeah, basically, to elevate his self-esteem and satisfy his desire for recognition, showing off what he knew to prove he belonged.
That's fascinating. And sad, really. What happened to him?
Well, his employer was apparently kindly and understanding, didn't just fire him.
That's lucky.
Yeah, they talked to him, pointed out the opportunities he had and the problem his unreliability was causing.
So, direct feedback, but supportive.
Seems like it. And the source says that combination self-knowledge, together with the sincere practicing of the techniques of faith and prayer, it turned him around. He became a valuable asset.
Wow. Understanding the why really unlocked things for him.
It seems so. And the author gets personal, too, which I think is really powerful.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he shares his own childhood struggles, being painfully thin, hating it, wanting desperately to be fat.
Really? Most kids worry the other way.
Right? He talks about stuffing himself with food, trying so hard to gain weight, and then, irony of ironies, later in life he had to struggle just as hard to lose 40 pounds.
Oh, wow. That really shows how these insecurities can twist things, doesn't it?
Totally. It makes him relatable. He wasn't born confident.
So he wasn't just then.
Yeah.
Any other struggles?
Yeah, he mentions being a minister's son, feeling this pressure to be like namby-pamby, as he puts it.
Huh. Mamby-pamby.
Yeah, and he rebelled against that, wanted to be seen as hard-boiled. Tough.
Okay, I can see that.
And get this, despite coming from a family of platform speakers, he was terrified of public speaking himself.
No way.
Yes. He says he had to use every known device to develop confidence just to be able to speak in public.
So the guy writing the book on self-belief had to fight his own demons first. That's actually really encouraging.
It really is. And what did he find worked for him? He points back to the simple techniques of faith taught in the Bible, describes them as scientific and sound for healing that pain of inferiority feelings and releasing those inhibited powers.
Scientific and sound. Interesting way to put it.
Yeah.
Connecting faith and practical results.
Yeah. And here's another scenario he paints, super common. Maybe you had an older sibling, brilliant, got all the A's.
Well, you got the seed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you heard about it constantly until you started believing, okay, I guess I'm just a C person for life.
Oof. Yeah, those comparisons can be brutal. That narrative can really stick.
But the source pushes back hard on that. It says, hey, some of those who failed to get high grades in school have been the greatest successes outside of school.
Take that,
Well,
school grades.
Right. It suggests the real A's in life often go to people who, maybe didn't shine in the classroom. It kind of redefines success.
Yeah, shifts the focus to real-world impact. That's liberating, like you said.
Definitely.
Okay, so pulling this all together,
Yeah.
childhood stuff, comparisons, even just feeling less than, what's the big secret then? The ultimate cure for this inferiority complex, this deep self-doubt.
Well, the source is pretty direct. It calls it the greatest secret.
Okay, lay it on us.
It's to fill your mind to overflowing with faith.
Overflowing with faith.
Yeah. Specifically, develop a tremendous faith in God, which then helps you build a humble yet soundly realistic faith in yourself.
Faith in God fosters faith in self. That's a powerful idea.
It is, and it doesn't just leave it there. It gives practical steps for getting this dynamic faith.
Okay, like what?
3 things, mainly. Prayer, lots of prayer. Then reading and mentally absorbing the Bible. And finally, practicing its faith techniques.
Prayer, Bible practice. Sounds straightforward, but maybe not easy.
Well, yeah, it's about immersion, right? Actively filling your mind, consistently reinforcing that positive, faith-based framework. It's the practice that matters, like focused mindfulness, maybe. Consistently feeding yourself positive narratives.
Okay. But what kind of prayer? Because, sometimes prayer can feel a bit routine.
Exactly. The source makes that distinction. It's not talking about surface skimming, formalistic, and perfunctory prayer.
Right, not just going through the motions.
No, it uses this wonderful quote from a cook, actually, a woman working for some friends of the author.
Yeah.
She said, for a big trouble, you have to pray deep prayers.
Deep prayers. I like that. Simple but profound. Cuts right through it.
Doesn't it? And there's another voice, Harlow B. Andrews, a businessman. He said something similar.
What was his take?
He said, the trouble with most prayers is that they aren't big enough.
Not big enough. Interesting.
Yeah. He urged people, learn to pray big prayers. Why? Because apparently, God will rate you according to the size of your prayers.
Oh,
And he quotes the Bible, Matthew 9:29. According to your faith, be it unto you. Basically, the scale of your faith, maybe reflected in your prayers, determines the outcome.
so are we limiting ourselves with small prayers, small faith, small asks?
That's the implication, isn't it? Are our prayers, maybe even our thoughts or intentions, just too cautious, too hesitant?
Hmm, that's something to think about. And there was one more quote you mentioned about suction.
Ah, yes. My favorite, too. It's from the singer Roland Hayes, quoting his grandfather.
Okay.
His grandfather, described as having simple education but deep wisdom, said, "The trouble with lots of prayers is they ain't got no suction."
Chuckles slightly. No suction. That's brilliant. It just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? Are they actually connecting? Are they effective?
Exactly. Are they drawing anything towards you? It's such a vivid image.
Yeah, it really is.
So, that really sums up the core message of this deep dive, I think. Overcoming that deep self-doubt, that inferiority.
Hmm.
It's not passive.
Right, not just wishful thinking.
No, it's this mix. You need some self-analysis, understanding the roots. You need those immediate tools, the affirmations for crises.
Mm.
But crucially, it points towards this profound dynamic faith. Faith expressed through prayers that are specific and deep and, well, prayers with suction.
It's an active process.
Yeah.
Deliberate internal work.
Yeah. And remember, the source calls these principles scientific and sound, tools for releasing those inner powers we all have but might be, inhibited.
So for everyone listening, maybe think about that. How could filling your mind to overflowing with faith, whatever that means for you, spiritual or just deep conviction in yourself, how could that shift things?
Yeah, not just confidence, but maybe other big barriers in your life.
What would big prayers look like for your challenges?
Yeah.
Or maybe more pointedly, what would it take for your prayers or just your deepest intentions to finally get some suction, something to mull over?